as we welcome in the host of The Sheet. Every day, 10 a.m. Pacific here on the Nation Network. Mike Blake and I often say Friday is our Jeff show, often with Marek and Patterson, so this is the Jeff segment. Hello.
Ooh. One of these kids is not like the other, if I can co-opt an old phrase from our favorite kids show, Sesame Street. How are you, gentlemen, today? Big weekend coming up for the Canucks.
Every weekend seems like it's the end of the world for the Vancouver Canucks these days, but hey, every weekend's an opportunity, I suppose. That's how they have to look at it.
Hang on, let me couch something in a very specific way here for Vancouver Canucks fans. I know we're going to get into Demko and Hughes, etc. Maybe have a whack at the David Kampf pinata as well. But here's what I look at with the NHL right now. Let me know whether you guys are going to pick up what I put down here. It seems to me that this is, and we want to put a time frame on it. Let's just say of recent note, that this is maybe the most average I've seen the NHL.
Yep.
Some may just say, oh, parity. I kind of look at it and say, like, no one outside of perhaps Colorado, although they, for 2 full periods, had their hands full of the Buffalo Sabres last night, there's no one that's really distinguished themselves as being great yet. Like, this is a very average start to this NHL season. That's why, if you're a team that thinks you can contend, go for it. Or if you're a fan base that thinks like, oh, no, the sky is falling, Chicken Little, take solace in the fact that this is not a runaway freight train this year of an NHL season. So far, it's been a quite average NHL season.
And it's funny you say that, Jeff, because not just team-related, but, I mean, it goes hands in hand here. Like, I'll look at the stats and I'll see a guy, he's only got 3 goals. Like, he's only got 3 goals now. That applies to Elias Pettersson out here among others.
Should be talking about, Jacob?
No, across the league. Now, obviously, there's Celebrini and Bedard and those storylines.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people picking up their points, McKinnon and Nate Jash, but there are a lot of guys I look at and we're a full month into the season now, and I'm just like, so yes, I agree with you. Whether it's the team level or individuals, there's just a lot of meh.
It's funny you say, well, we've been talking about that on the show, and you're right, Jeff. Like, this is what's still fueling a little bit of hope for the Vancouver Canucks given their start. But it's funny because before the season, I'm combing through depth charts, looking at teams and other stats, but mostly depth charts as we got to make our predictions. And I was like, oh, I like this team. And then I'd go and I'd look at their depth chart and I'd go, oh, honestly, I liked a fully healthy Florida Panthers team at the beginning of the year. And the rest of them, I sort of felt like, okay,
yeah,
we can throw you all.
And now even the Florida Panthers, and even with Matthew Tkachuk coming back one day and Alexander Barkov coming back one day, there is this sort of vibe around the league. I certainly feel this way. Maybe I shouldn't say everyone feels this way. Curious what you guys think. I mean, I've kind of come back from Niagara Falls on the Florida Panthers, right? Like the honeymoon here is kind of over. That's a lot of hockey for a team to play. Not just winning the Stanley Cup, but getting the Stanley Cup final as well. I don't know. Like, I've not, like, no one,
fair enough.
Maybe, and even, but even Colorado, like here's a team that has, what is it, Burns and Manson as their second pair. Like, every team has holes, some significant, but the main point that I'm getting at here is, I mean, we all know what's happening with the Calgary Flames, but outside of that, like, who's really completely taken themselves, maybe Nashville, who's really taken themselves out here in the Western Conference? Like, I was talking to Drew Amanda yesterday on the sheet with Greg Wyshynski, and we were saying, like, look, things have to break the right way. Everyone's got to stay healthy. Askarof's got to have a great season. But I can't sit here and tell you that the San Jose Sharks 100% can't make the playoffs, because why not? It doesn't mean that this is the beginning of them making the playoffs for 10 years in a row, but we've seen teams go on like PDO benders and make it in the playoffs and come down to earth the next season. It's happened before. No one's only a couple of teams have really taken themselves out of it that you look at and you say, like, we know what's going to happen to them come trade deadline time, if not before. That's why if I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan, this is like, it's Carolina, Tampa, Florida this weekend. I know it looks daunting, and Thatcher Demko and Quinn Hughes, etc. But this is a very average start to this season. You got to be blunt about it.
Blake and I had the conversation last week and said, okay, if we're going to have a whole bunch of mediocrity in the league this year with no great teams or very few great teams, at least give us a banger playoff chase down the last couple of weeks, right? Like, that's what you get to look forward to if in fact
Yeah.
you do have these tightly bunched teams all around the playoff bar.
Can I ask you guys a philosophical question, sort of straying away from the Canucks here for 1 second? But
See,
this is one
JPET,
of the
this is how it
things-
works with Marek. He asks the questions, we answer.
Love
It's,
it.
It's a different segment than we do with anybody
I'm,
else.
I'm only really comfortable asking the questions.
That's
otherwise I
right.
really expose myself as a fraud.
He's a better pitcher than catcher.
But what I really want to do is direct. Okay, so one of the and there have been some great teams, not cut out of the cloth of the Islanders and the Habs, and you could argue the Edmonton Oilers, certainly with the 4 cups in 5 years. But do you think, this is just a personal question, because for me the answer is not a hard yes but a soft yes, and that is, do you think when mediocrity is the call of the day, or sorry, parity is the call of the day, and there are no dynasties anymore, or we've maybe at best recalibrated what a dynasty team is, does it devalue the Stanley Cup to you? When all you have to be is the best out of a bunch of mediocre teams. Like, you look at the Cup, like, one of the great things about going to Yonge and Front Street, the Hall of Fame, is like, look at those Islanders. Like, look at those two Flyers. Like, look at like, that's a team. And then you get into the salary cap era, and listen, Chicago had their 3, and the Kings had a pair in two cups in 3 years, and we know what the Pittsburgh Penguins have done, and most recently, of course, the Florida Panthers and Tampa previous to that. But are there any teams that you look at and you say, like, wow, like, this is like, count the Hall of Famers on this team. Wow, this is a real. Am I making too much of this? Or
I hear where you're coming from, Jeff. But I will say, like, the beauty of the Cup in my mind is always going to be, the race to 16 wins, right? 4 wins per round. Like, the St. Louis Blues were not a great team, but they became a great story.
Yep.
Right? And so I hear what you're saying. Like, the days of the true dynasty, I think, are behind us, but it's impossible to say that the last team standing isn't a worthy champ any year just because of the grind it takes to win the Cup, in my mind, and what the Florida Panthers have done the last 3 years, getting to a final and then getting it right the last 2, and the Oilers can sort of author that same kind of story, not on the levels of the Islanders and the Habs teams that you mentioned, but I still think every spring that there are some pretty incredible stories authored by whoever ends up hoisting the Cup.
I would say it does not devalue the Stanley Cup for me, Jeff, but it does make the whole season, including playoffs, less memorable. Jeff cited the 2019 St. Louis Blues. Other than the photo, only because I've seen it so much because Rutherford is here, I have very little recollection of the 06 Hurricanes winning the Stanley Cup. I remember Cam Ward was terrific. I want to say they beat Montreal. I think I was in Montreal when they won a series against the Habs in that run. The 2012 Kings were desperately boring, and so I've sort of outside of the first round where they made short work of the Canucks.
But at least they backed it up backed it up with another one. At least the
Kings
did,
and they won all those games in a row. So I'll give them that. But like the Cup final against New Jersey that year, I'm like, I can tell you, I can remember a single thing about it. So
the thing about the Hurricanes in 06. It's funny. I was just talking about this the other day. We're going to get back to Vancouver talk here, fans. Don't worry. I just want to make one final point and turn the recreation back. The thing about the 06 Carolina Hurricanes, that was in a lot of ways the perfect Stanley Cup champion for that season because it came out of nowhere. And as you guys recall, that was a year where everybody had to relearn how to play hockey. It was coming out of the lockout. There was the crackdown on obstruction. The Philadelphia Flyers didn't believe that they were going to stick with it, and the referees were going to bend and eventually go back to the old ways. So they miscalculated and had a bunch of oak trees on the back end that were mobile and ended up paying for it. The Carolina Hurricanes, again, out of nowhere, won the Stanley Cup, and then everybody thought it was going to be about foot speed. And then Brian Brooks' Anaheim Ducks did it with nuclear deterrence on the bench. But that whole season, I kind of crumple up and throw away. Now, no offense to the player that we're going to mention here, but do you remember who won the Rocket Richard in 2006? Here's my Easter egg.
Yeah.
Jonathan Cheechoo.
Oh, right.
Like, that was the year where just, like, crazy stuff happened in the NHL. Everybody was relearning how to play again. So in a lot of ways, Carolina was the perfect Stanley Cup champion. Small market, didn't expect it. All the things that we thought we knew about the game and the teams and all that were out the window. Chichu snaps
Yeah,
in.
Frank
50 plus.
Caberlet was their leading defenseman on that team, and Corey Stillman and Eric Cole were amongst their top 5 scorers.
Stillman
Yeah.
should have won the Conn Smythe, by the way. That was the performance of all.
And honestly, some of the dead cup or dead puck cups as well. Jeff, like, I don't dispute New Jersey's brilliance in the least. You have those 2 defensemen and that goaltender, and that is sensational. But I can't say that was the most enjoyable hockey to watch. Yes, let's move on to the. You've had your 10 minutes.
Okay, I got my. There was. You put some candy on my microphone for me. Thanks, guys.
Well, your segue back into the Canucks is that Jim Rutherford went out and acquired both Mark Recchi and Doug Weight, if I'm not mistaken.
There
right?
you go, Jeff.
Yep.
Who's
He
the
did.
Mark Recchi?
He
Who's the Doug Wake
recognized-
coming to the rescue here in Vancouver this
Well, I
season?
mean, but that really helped build the reputation. That really started the reputation of Jim Rutherford as getting the jump on everybody and not waiting until
Right,
trade
that's
deadline.
right.
Because everybody else historically had always waited until deadline, and Rutherford's like, screw that. I'm making my moves now, and I'm getting my guys in here, and they're getting acclimatized, and they're learning how we play, and they just kept on winning. We said, oh, look, it's cute. Carolina's winning hockey games. Oh, cute. Next thing you know, they're winning the Stanley Cup. Against
halcyon
the
days of the halcyon days of early buying. Jeff, remember those?
Yeah, I know.
We're having a different sort of trade discussion in this market these days.
You mean
Marek.
Lucas Reichel isn't it? Is
Yeah,
that what
Lucas Reichel, believe it or not, isn't it. Anyways, you mentioned it. Carolina, the 2 Florida teams back to back, no Demko and maybe no Hughes. The Canucks survived this weekend.
Jeez, my head says no, my heart says yes. We love magic in sports. We love things to be unpredictable, and just when you think that, oh, there's no way they're going to win these games, Vancouver goes and, rattles off 3 big wins here and picks up 5 of 6 possible points, or dare we say 6 points. Listen, this is going to be tough, and I don't need to tell you guys that. And the one team that is incredibly frustrating to play against are the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, they live in your hip pocket. As much as they are an analytically led team, they still kind of play an old school table hockey kind of game. Rod Brindamore loves to, dump it in and retrieve, dump it in and retrieve, dump it. Like there's no secret about how the Carolina Hurricanes play. It's hard work, and the way that Eric Tulsky and his predecessor Don Waddell brought players into this organization was based on how Rod Brindamore wants his team to play. And you have to be athletic, you have to be able to think on your feet quickly, you have to be able to react, and you have to be mobile. If you're a defenseman, for example, like Keandre Miller, there is room for you with the Carolina Hurricanes. If you're a player that plies his trade and makes his living by, cross checks all the way to hell, there's not going to be a place for you on the Carolina Hurricanes. The one thing about Carolina, and I've always considered Carolina an acquired taste, if you're a hockey fan, because I know it's not the most exciting brand of hockey. But the one thing that I'm fascinated by with Carolina, and that's why I always encourage fans when they're watching the Hurricanes to buy a ticket up high, so you can see everything and watch what happens when things break down. And something really fascinating happens if you're watching it up high. Because we look at the game now, we see wow, there's no room to move out there. It's because everyone's playing zone. When you're playing a man-to-man like Carolina does, when there's a turnover or a breakdown and the puck changes possession, it's amazing because everyone's playing in each other's hip pocket. How much actual ice is out there? And you're and usually when that happens, it leads to a high danger scoring chance. And that's the risk that Carolina always takes. That's, I call it the Carolina gamble. If it works, it's really successful and horrible to play against. But if you make a mistake, and that's why they need smart hockey players there. If you make a mistake, it is almost an automatic high danger scoring chance because there is so much ice available to you when you play man-to-man. Fascinating team to watch.
Liz Pedersen would sure fit that system. Huh?
I was so wondering if you were going to go there because I can see that 100% too, Maddie.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I don't think it's exactly a secret. A couple of years ago, that was one of the teams that was interested in Liz Pedersen. So yes, as I'm describing this, all the Vancouver Canucks fans are going bobbleheading this will go now take the next step, Marek. Now take the next step.
Exactly. Connect the dots, Jeff.
Canucks were held to 14 shots in Carolina last year. Remember, that was the night they got snowed in Raleigh and had to fly to Toronto. And then they shut out the Maple Leafs. I want to sell a little bit of hope here for the weekend, and you're a part of this here, Jeff, because they're going to be tough in Carolina. And we'll see what happens there. They get Tampa on Sunday, and earlier in the week, it was just one of those innocuous little transaction tweets that comes out, and I saw you jump on the fact that Tampa had recalled a couple of big boys earlier in the week. They've got some injury issues, but the Canucks get Tampa on Sunday after Tampa is in Florida on Saturday afternoon, and we think back to the preseason and bloodbaths and the rivalry is alive.
I don't remember that.
They're probably not going to
remember that at all.
Probably not going to see Vasilevsky because I would imagine he'll play against the Panthers. So there's a break there, but also. Will Tampa survive its visit to Sunrise on Saturday to play on Sunday?
Who's going to be left? Who's going to be? We all remember that preseason game where there was a couple of players. I thought the mascot was going to get a shift or something. Like one of the season ticket holders was going to get out there on the power play. First of all, the sobering point of the call-ups too, where I was like, to your point, Jeff, like the Tampa Bay Lightning are going through an injury crisis. I know no Vancouver Canucks fan wants to hear that because it's like, oh really? A team's going through and they got a wagon full of injured players. Hey, really? I wonder what that feels like. But Tampa is going through it right now, so that is part of it. But make no mistake about it, Scott Sabourin was getting called up for the Florida game. And we all know it. Like there's no the suspension has been served. They were very strategic about how they did it. The suspension has been served, and there was no way that Scott Sabourin wasn't getting called up for that game on Friday. So as much as it was like a lot of Tampa fans like, no, dummy, pay attention. They got a lot of injuries. Boy, are you dumb, knucklehead, blah, 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 blah. You got scabs on your knuckles. Did you walk over here, Marek? Ha, 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 ha. Like, we all know why they called up Scott Sabourin. And he scored against the Rangers.
Yeah. Just a word to Paul Maurice and John Cooper. The phrase "pay the price," legally dicey. We learned that here 20 years ago. Be careful what you say to them.
The NHL always calls the teams beforehand to remind them that the eyeballs are on them. But I always hearken back to, I think it was it Conn Smythe who used to say, "We're going to have to do something about all this fighting in the NHL. We're going to have to make bigger buildings."
Yeah. I want to ask you this because for the last week, we missed you last week. He was with us 2012 at a flyweight tournament. Oh, driveway tournament.
U14.
There's been a lot of rebuild talk here. And to be fair, there's been rebuild talk in this market for 12 years, but it whipped up again over the last week with some Canucks losses and Bedard coming in here and looking great and all that. Is there another team around the league that refuses to rebuild and has this conversation around the club in market by the fans? Is it Boston, or just Boston is able to retool successfully so the conversation never gets to why won't this team rebuild? Like what is preventing them? Why don't they learn? Why don't they take this?
Right now, that conversation is revolving around Nashville. Right now, this is a couple of years of the Nashville Predators. I mean, Barry Trotz had the great line in the preseason. Everyone predicted us to win the Stanley Cup last year. We proved them wrong, and we're going to prove them wrong again this year because they've written us off. And it has not gone swimmingly, and everyone's having the conversations about Stamkos and, where could Stamkos end up? And, make no mistake about it, Vancouver is part of that conversation, as is Montreal, as are, a number of teams. I don't know about full freight, but, I think that they're at least in the conversation there. We've wondered about Jonathan Marchessault, so I've wondered about UC Saros with a team like the Edmonton Oilers, much like, I've wondered about it. I've wondered about a player like Philip Forsberg. Essentially, and I've been trying to make the point in the past couple of weeks here with Nashville that I think it's reasonable to expect a player. It's reasonable to ask a player. Let me frame it this way. It's reasonable to ask a player to go through one rebuild, but considering how short careers are, you can't ask them to do it twice. You can't. And that's why, one of the players that I'd be wondering about with Nashville as this thing continues to spiral, I wonder about Philip Forsberg. through all of this one here. So I think that's a team that right now is having that conversation. But listen, just when we thought Boston was going to bottom out and this was going to be it and it was going to be the great sell-off, they rattle off 7 wins. And all of a sudden it's geeky mania all over the NHL.
The unstoppable
as
Morgan
we all
Geekie,
expected. Yeah. I know, as we all expected. So I think as long as Boston does show some signs of life, and just as an aside too, I'm really happy for Marco Sturm through all of this too. That could have been a really tough situation, and it still might end up being. I mean, we're still early here. Could have been a really tough situation to walk in with all the losses piling up, and I'm happy for that person and that coach, that things, at least right now, are working out for the Boston Bruins. But no, I think the main one right now, Matty, a long-winded answer, are the Nashville Predators. But make no mistake about it, like Vancouver has always, as you guys well know, resisted the scorched earth, take it down to the nuts and bolts kind of rebuild.
Yeah, it hasn't been a 12-year storyline in Nashville.
Hey, just quickly on the Predators. Hey, Jeff, what did the poor people of Sweden do to deserve a visit from the Nashville Predators this weekend?
It wasn't supposed to be like this. That's what I'm saying here. Like it wasn't.
Well,
like,
they do get Sid. Pittsburgh is there.
I know.
They get Sid and they get Forsberg. Like, I get it. I understand it. One of the things, actually, you guys will know this. It would have been Shane O'Brien in that global series or whatever it was called then in Prague when the Rangers were playing Tampa. I think O'Brien was scratched for the second of the 2 games set. And they left for Prague, and when they landed back in Tampa, there was a plane waiting to take O'Brien to Vancouver. And the speculation, I think he might have been traded on the flight or maybe traded overseas. And this would have been, I want to say 2008, 2007? Shane O'Brien.
It was later than 07, but let me find it here. 08-09 season.
Yeah,
early in the 08-09. He played 1 game for Tampa that year, and then was moved to the Canucks.
and it was in Prague, and then they got traded. Many wonder if they was traded, before they got on the flight, before the game where he was scratched, or maybe it was, as soon as they landed, they consummated it. I'm not sure, but honestly, I think a lot of us will be wondering, and they'll be having that conversation. Make no mistake about it in Sweden. When we get off the flight back home, are we all going to the same place?
Yeah,
that's what I would think. But you know what? For hang on. But as an aside, quickly, the best thing for Nashville right now is to get out of town. Like the best thing for the Preds is if you're a team that has a bunch of new players on the squad. Like I remember talking to someone in Philadelphia one year, a few years ago, and there's a bunch of new players on the team, and their schedule had like them playing on the road 10 of 12 games. And I was talking to someone there. I'm like, "Oh man, your schedule is brutal." And he said to me, "No, this is what you want. If you have a bunch of new players on your hockey team, you want to get on the road right away to get these guys together. You don't want like you playing 12 of your first 15 at home because they never see each other, they never hang out with each other, never go to dinner with each other. If you have a team that has a bunch of players that aren't used to each other, don't know each other, get them on the road as fast as you can. And right now, this team is going through hell in Nashville. Get them on the road and get them together. Maybe the best thing for Nashville right now.
I remember the Flyers a couple of years ago were part of that global series. I can't remember which city it was, doesn't matter. They then were here in Vancouver like a week later. Like it was just one of the craziest. We always talk about travel and the West Coast.
Yeah.
The Flyers started in Europe, and a week later we're here in Vancouver. We're like 12 time zones away. So.
Yeah. Enjoy that body clock.
All of this dovetails beautifully into our Easter egg with Jeff Marek.
With my new lifeline. With J-Pat, my new lifeline.
You have J-Pat here to assist you, unless he knows the answer, unless he saw it this week. He doesn't even know the question.
No.
I keep this under wraps. Not even Mike knows
blind.
the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
As you mentioned, global series in Sweden this week. Penguins and Predators from Stockholm. We have a illustrious history of Swedish players in this market. And I came across this week, and I got to say, I would not have gotten it, so I thought maybe Jeff Marek will get this.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Who has the highest scoring season by a Swedish player in the National Hockey League? J-Pat, do you know?
I'm formulating. I've got a couple of answers rattling around in my head.
There have been
hang on.
14. Go ahead.
Can I try to jump on this quick before we get any teasers or clues?
Yep, please.
Is it Kent Nilsson?
Very good, Jeff Marek.
It is. He's one of my favorite players. And always has been.
And
Kent
it's
Nilsson.
not
and one of the most underrated players
particularly
of all time.
close.
Really?
Kent
Yeah,
Nilsson.
what's like 150 points or something?
No, 131.
136? 131.
131 in 1980-81 for the Calgary Flames. Believe it or not, I was a 4 or 5-year-old. My family had just moved from Montreal to Calgary, and Kent Nilsson was he was our Gretzky in southern Alberta. 131.
Incredible.
It is 15 better than Peter Forsberg's best season of 116, which is second place amongst Swedish players.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give your audience some homework here. So you know the move, the postage stamp move, the move we call the Forsberg every time we see it. I'd like everybody now to open up a browser and go to YouTube and type in Kent Nilsson, John Van Beesbroek, 1989 World Championships. And I remember asking Peter Forsberg about it. I'm like, did you get it from that? Because he pulls what we now call the Forsberg on John Van Beesbroek. And it's a gorgeous goal. And it's the Forsberg move. And it's before, sorry, Corey, it's before the Hirsch postage stamp. And that became super popular, and we still see it in the NHL right now. That's Kent Nilsson's move. And we saw it for the first time at the 89 World Championships against John Van Beesbroek. And everybody went, what was that? And it's full speed, right? It's not on a penalty shot. It's not on a shootout. It's full speed. It's 5-on-5 play. And it's beautiful. And Forsberg's like, yeah, I got it from that moment, watching Sweden against USA. There's your homework, everybody. Go watch the originator of the Forsberg, Kent Nilsson.
Man.
And the other crazy thing, Nilsson and Forsberg are the only Swedes with multiple 100-point seasons in the NHL. Believe it or not.
Right, eh?
Hank,
The way you had framed the question, part of me
Danny,
was thinking,
Sundin, Patterson, Carlson, Backstrom, Mats Naslund and Marcus Naslund, Håkan Lube.
that's where I the way you had framed the question, part of me, like I knew he had a big season. I had to look at 106 points for Håkan Lube. So not in the running here, but originally.
Sixth amongst Swedes.
It is sixth, then. Okay.
Yeah. Nielsen, Forsberg 116, Sundin 114, Hank 112, Mats Naslund 110 with the Canadians in their cup year of 85-86. I was astonished looking at this list.
So,
like I would have gotten this list so wrong at the top and through the top 10 to 14 seasons all time from Swedes of 100 points.
Swedish coach. Here you go. Arcane Easter egg for you guys. So Rickard Gronberg is a legendary Swedish coach who's now returned, and probably by now he should have had a job in the NHL. There were reports that he actually interviewed with the Pittsburgh Penguins in the summer. I was never able to confirm that. I had been told that by a couple of different people. Anyhow, I ended up going to Dan Muse. He had interviewed previously with a couple of different teams as an assistant. But speaking of Mats Naslund, here's one for your hip pocket. So he had a very unique looking visor. If you go to your Google Images, you can have a look at Mats Naslund's visor. His father, who was a designer of a lot of various pieces of hockey equipment, used to make Mats Naslund's visors. They were all personally made by Rickard Gronberg's dad. And as a kid, Rickard Gronberg's job was to put visors on Mats Naslund's helmets. That was his job. That's what I got for you.
Yeah,
good.
That's what I got for you today, boys.
It's funny because as a kid going to games at the Forum, Mats Naslund was like the be-all, end-all.
26.
Like they loved it when
26.
Lafleur touched the puck. There was always the chance of Guy, but he was not in his heyday then, and Naslund was the driver.
Because it
we
was
gotta
so
run.
much fun to say his name, Mats Naslund.
Wow, and when he scored on, the PA, the famous PA there. You have a marvelous week.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, boys. Be good.